When I'm training for professional competitions, men and women always ask me for advice. To women, I say push yourself harder than you ever have before and go beyond your comfort zone. Focus on your goals. Men, if I am willing to push myself to become Mr. Olympia in 2022, then I only have one thing to say to you. Bring your A game.
Here we go again.
Welcome back to another video. I want to say a shout out to all of A Game Nation. Salute to all my veterans across the board. Hope you have a healthy, safe weekend. Hope you didn't get pissy drunk, laying up with some mud duck or whatnot, and that you are sucker free. And to all the new subscribers and old, I want to say hit the notification bell for future videos. Excuse me, slew mouth. So now, I want to take care of the housekeeping before I get into the video. Every week, I usually start off everything with the Article 15 of the week. But aside from that, as I mentioned before, I will be doing more lives, be more interactive. That will come shortly, just getting things in order. And I will address a lot of things in doing a mail call. That could be a random, be it a comment, conversation, and a few things inspired the mail call, but I'll get to that later. But when it comes to the Article 15 of the week, it will be the reloaded version of the table talk. And since there will be ladies or females with selective hearing, selective outrage, and all sorts of ailments, it is in your best interest to have a translator. And also individuals who can break it down for you in the level of a 5-year-old. And I'm going to leave that there. But for those women who actually are about the right, I will do my best to put my foot forward and just be as blunt and candid as I need to be. So that way you start attempting to bridge the gaps, rather than fall into the ravines of society like a lot of these chicken heads do on a regular basis. So that being said, you see the title of the video. And it is saying the age of the poetic pyromaniac. Now, this came to mind earlier today. And shout out to the last 4 people that I picked up from Broad Ripple and bought me a drink because of, I guess, quality of service. And plus, they were the one that put me over the top that got me my bonus today. So I'm keeping it in mind and giving them a shout out, and they know who they are. But in 2021, excuse me, I did a video speaking on being a positive pyromaniac. But this year, I'm calling for the age of the poetic pyromaniac. So what do I mean when I speak about being a poetic pyromaniac? Well, let's start with the basics first. It's more than just being a pyromaniac. A pyromaniac is basically an individual who gets off in so many ways of setting things on fire, aimlessly, being destructive, being that social gremlin that goes around and just commits arson and all kind of silly shit. Many things trigger it, but I'm not using that context. So what I meant by being a positive pyromaniac is when you look in the context of how we started coming to this space or similar spaces, a lot of us got burned. And we've used this place, either it be the manosphere, the black manosphere, or other mediums on and offline as burn units. And if you notice, there's a lot of burn units who are filled to the brim with a lot of rooms. Unfortunately, there are many individuals who enjoy picking their scabs, being unable to not only not heal, but many or more have been infected by individuals who are supposed to be looking after their care. A lot of quacks in this space. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen and women, being those who use ashy dick analytics or stinky dildo statisticians, be it Esdras oracles or these Wi-Fi winos. All of them are cyberspace squatters in different incarnations and locations, but still, that's what the fuck there are. But I digress. In the necessity of how and understanding how the levels of being burned. Some have been burned with 1 degree burns. Something you can just mend, take a little time, certain ways to heal it, and you'll be back on recovery. Some are level 2, a little more intense. You have a little bit more damage, which requires a lot more repair and means of addressing. You got to be very careful with certain things. Then you started getting to the 3rd and 4th degree burns. Now, in this context, you start looking at some people were burned spiritually, socially, publicly, privately, regardless of where and how. Far too many of us have been picking those scabs. Some of us carry that charred flesh, be it our heart, our minds, our eyes. And some of us still carry that pain, that burning sensation of when we first got burnt. Some have been burnt sexually. Some have been burnt through the child support system, or enduring the trials and tribulations of a gynocratic society, or some people have been victims of the science of gynoscience. However it is, this is why I put out the video about being a positive pyromaniac. But when we look at it, we need to start from the beginning. When it comes to pyre, it's a noun. That's a heap of combustible material, especially one for burning a corpse as part of a funeral ceremony. Now, the reason why I'm putting this first, because far too many of us have not given certain things that hold us back, some things that needed to be burnt away, because fire does purify, clears room for certain things. Certain things must be reduced to ash, be it things in our past that keeps us a prisoner in our present, and unfortunately keeps us a fugitive from the future. Be it a lot of these chicken heads you experienced, certain so-called friends, family members, mentors, certain things you've experienced trauma in on whatever level. You know you've been burned. And what sense does it make to carry that pile of charred skin, muscle, and bone sometimes forward into the future? See, with it being 2022, I've always said you had to drink a fifth of fuck it with certain things. People are going to do what they do. Far too many times, you have people celebrating or even lauding the growing numbers of haters. In one instance, you got people who generally don't like the fact that you have that combustible material within you, that spark, that ambition, that energy, that motivation, something that sets people ablaze in a motivating way. You being a hard charging leader, you being a silent leader, whatever it might be, you have either a gift or a number of gifts. That is that pyre. That when it's lit, it's a certain glow that attracts people to you, that promotes that level of warmth. And even those who can't fucking stand you, even they can't help but to hold their hands up to the heat of your masculine light, especially. Be it in the military or the civilian theater. If you pay attention, it's sitting there right in your face. Certain people who might outrank you in a certain sense, but when they're around you, they're that much taller. See, it's something about within you that isn't fair when it's set ablaze. You might have that creative energy, be it in whatever canvas or medium you use to express your art or artistic ability. No one can fucking touch you. There are people who will use the light from your flame and throw shade your way. But see, this lets you know there's a whole heap of ungrateful motherfuckers in the world who can't deny the fact that what you bring makes a difference. See, you're surrounded by night lights or strobe lights. They like to distract you. And their light is artificial. Matter of fact, they rely on electricity, which is a whole nother different situation. But your fire is organic. And you will have individuals who will pull down their pamper and piss on your fire in hopes to put it out. A lot of times they will try to dump that fire on you, trying to burn you of who you were, what you used to be, what was said about you, all manner of things to discourage you from doing what you were meant to be. Also with that pyre, this is where you put those things that they try to bury you in and purify yourself. Unfortunately, with that fire, some of us have been burned by interpersonal losses, be it family, friends, betrayal, whatever incarnation, especially as men. We know what those burns feel like. Some of us have been told to suck it up, grit your teeth. Oh, that's nothing. Stop being a bitch. Being a man does not mean that you don't feel anything. You have to remember, we're selfless givers. A lot of us sacrifice ourselves. And sometimes we get burned twice, especially when it's in the behalf of understanding that we've sacrificed ourselves and whatever we had or we valued for Pyrrhic victories and people who weren't worth fighting for, certain causes, certain endeavors. And unfortunately, because of those situations, it gets to the point where a lot of us extinguish our flame prematurely due to fear, doubt, and having people fail you and lie to you and burn you. This is why pyre and burning those things in a Viking funeral, in a sense, it's reassuring. Because what they cling to and they wish to handcuff you with, they fear the day you set certain things ablaze in order to set yourself free. Certain things have to be cleansed by the flames out there of those flames of purity. Certain things you use fire to bring the best out of certain things. Because see, when people expected to burn you and bury you and turn it to your funeral, all you done was turn that individual to an internal foundry where they create many things that are hardened by that molten material and made stronger than other people expected to. See, when you've gone through that fire of rejection on all levels, betrayal, certain things need to be burnt away. And if you're into metalworks and whatnot, once you baptize those certain things, those creative arts, especially yourself, after being burned into the fire, that scalding hot steam only lasts for a little bit. But you take all that soot off, and usually you have a masterpiece. I'm saying this because in 2022 and beyond, it is time to burn certain things away. See, favor isn't fair for a fucking reason. People can't do what you do. And when it comes to understanding this is when you start learning how to do this. Pyrokinesis is the purported psychic ability allowing a person to create and control fire with the mind. Now, there's been many movies you're talking about, Firestarter, and growing up as a comic book head, you have characters that learn how to control fire. See, when you control that masculine light, that flame within yourself, this is when shit starts becoming real cool. And for certain individuals, it comes out outright fucking scary. Now, you can learn pyrokinesis in a creative fashion when you have that creative fire within you. When you put your mind, your heart, and your hands into certain things, in your gift and your skill. Sometimes if you're a comedian or an artist, you set that stage on fire. You got people laughing, falling out, and throwing up, but enjoying what you do. Because if you're an orator or on any stage, people say that you're cooking. This is when you start showing tricks. You start showing off. And you can always choose to be careless with your flame and burn yourself the fuck up and everything that you aspire to have with it. But when you're 85% humble with your gift, and you have to respect that 15%, because sometimes you have to look, I am that motherfucker, and show no apologies to it. And shout out to the villain sphere, because they will refer to that as refined villainy. When it comes down to it, when you tap into this and your heart, and you surround yourself who help you temper those flames, that creative fire, that energy, well, now you become a fucking problem. Now you're doing tricks with that fire. And with that level of power and mastery requires a level of responsibility. And whenever you're able to level that out and work that not just to your benefit, but that of others, you burn an effigy, which will be renowned as your legacy. See, when it comes to us sons, fatherhood is a level of pyrokinesis. When you have a mentor, when you have the necessity of brotherhood, when you have guys who help add intensity to that flame, be it motivation, encouragement, you start to see the necessity of keeping that flame alive. This is when we talk about passing the torch. And unfortunately, as a rite of passage, sometimes our fathers pass us the torch because they know their time is gone, has expired. And I know this applies to certain people, and in the sound of my voice, do understand I've experienced this myself. When my father passed at the age of his 40s, a lot of us intentionally get unintentionally burn ourselves with the idea, am I going to make it past my father's age? Why me? Why now? Again, favor isn't fucking fair. Because when you master that level of pyrokinesis, you notice people want to be around that flame. Some people want to stay warm. And of course, when you understand the responsibility required in learning this gift, you notice certain people warm over to you. People who will be ice cold to other people. You warm the hearts of certain women. You warm the hearts of people who are frigid to an opportunity, but for some reason they say, I like this person. You sold them on you. That creative spark within you. And what you fail to understand, you have it. You just got started. See, with that pyrokinesis, you start learning how to use that momentum to start flying, doing all kind of crazy shit. The very enemies who's sitting there like, you know what? Why is he doing this? How's he able to do that? Who the fuck does he think he is? You don't have to say it with your words. People who don't like you, they still petition for an audience, be it at a distance, but they're watching and wondering how the fuck you doing it. It starts with tending to the kindling within here, and in your heart and mind. Now we start talking about the necessity of being a poetic pyromaniac. See, when I spoke on being a positive pyromaniac, it was addressing the necessity of healing. Because when you deal with certain burns, you're hypersensitive to a lot of shit. But in this context, there's a lot of men who've been burned by certain people, male, female, whatever. And you got men and quite a few males who are so hypersensitive that they don't want to be touched by certain things, certain people, certain memories. Some don't have the initiative to try again. Some allow themselves to be divorced from their gift or gifts. Some been burned by love or the love of the fetish that burnt them. But being a positive pyromaniac, that was to help you start understanding why you need to master that flame. It isn't just used to start cooking in a matter of survival. It helps you understand the necessity of using your flame, your light, your masculine light to see not just everything around you, not just everything within you, but what you were possibly destined to be, in spite of your frailties, in spite of the people you allowed to burn you. You learn how to start walking again. Then you start learning how to stand on your own power or stand for something. You start learning how to stand up to certain people using your standards to help protect you. See, when you've been burned once, you turn that sensitivity into vigilance. You start being mindful of your surroundings a lot more. And instead of allowing yourself to be paralyzed by fear, you use your light to shine the way forward, leading others into a positive direction. But it has to start with you shining a light within yourself. This is a lesson I had to learn over time and still learning. Now, that is just step one. But being a poetic pyromaniac, this plays into the pyrokinesis that I mentioned earlier. This is the evolution of the positive pyromaniac, who had to learn how to see and understand the basics of being what he was meant to be. Being a poetic one is being very stylish with doing what you do, what you were meant to do. Being a poetic pyromaniac means you make no fucking apologies about who you are, how you are, the number of gifts you were given. When people see you do your thing, you think of the Human Torch soaring across the skyline. Many will marvel in awe of what you do and who you are. And then with you streaking across the sky, you still shine a light on those who envy what you are and what you do. And you doing your thing, you're literally burning embers of memory into motherfuckers who underestimated you. They had no fucking idea, and some did. And they did their best to throw a blanket, water, anything to extinguish that flame, that gift within you. See, back then, you being the phoenix, certain things had to die. But once that phoenix rose, ascended to its place, it became a thing of beauty and potency. Because while certain people celebrated the rise of the phoenix, your ascension put people on notice. All you motherfuckers fucked up. But it's not for them. It is not reserved for vengeance. It's reserved for ascendance. Understanding you were meant for much more. meant to do what you do. That way you inspire certain people who have mere embers within themselves. Spark it up again. Enough with the blame, shame, and explain bullshit. Because you're using your masculine light to cook hot pockets or thought pockets, when you should be using your powers to light up the sky and the lives of people via your influence, your impact, and your intensity. So when it's your time to leave this earth, you inspire people to speak well of you, to dread the idea of the lack of your presence in their lives. When people look at other people's faces and they speak well of you, you see that light burning in their eyes of pride. Hints of sadness because you'll be missed. But inspiration to carry on the lessons, the motivation, and the passion that you set within them. Ultimately seeing that you pass the torch to people that gave a fuck about you because you set that light on fire. And even with my father, and many of our fathers or those who influence have gone from this plane of existence. It's on us to be those poetic pyromaniacs. Pass the torch to others who allowed other people to extinguish theirs. And I'm going to say this in closing. Favor ain't fair for a fucking reason, among many. It's on you to discover not just why, but what you were meant to do, given that divine favor. I kicked ass this weekend. In spite of all the shit I deal with on a regular basis, I've had decent days. Some days are worse. But I'm encouraging my peers to keep that fire burning. Because you doing what you're meant to do with this time, this finite resource we call time, you have the opportunity to be one of many lighthouses. To be that pillar of flame atop a mountain. To lead a lot of our lost brothers, sons, elders, lead them back home. Lead them into the bosom of brotherhood. Where could be welcomed warmly and do what the fuck they were meant to do. Oppose environment in dramatic fashion. So to all my peers, the two this applies to, go forth and unleash artistic anarchy. Don't worry about the spectators. Just give them a powerful show. Because indeed, there is more power underneath, behind the spotlight than underneath it. Unless you were meant to perform under that spotlight. Either case, let that flame burn bright. So salute to you guys. Much love to my peers. And when you think about it, you being a poetic pyromaniac, Looks mighty familiar, doesn't it? But you got to stoke the flames from within before you start working on external 5 and really start showing what your powers are meant to show, reveal, and do for you and others. So with that, salute to you guys. I hope you have a great week. And with this being the age of the poetic pyromaniac, start styling on the motherfuckers. Make your own chemtrails. And I'm going to leave it to you. Leave you guys to it. Semper Fi.